Hello and welcome back. My name is Dr. Mamoon Najjar, and I am on a mission to help people live a life filled with meaning, impact, and fulfillment. Throughout my life, I have searched for the blueprint to a purposeful life. This search has led me to creating this YouTube series based on my book, An Intelligent Pursuit of Optimal Being. It is the product of years of study, practice, and personal experiences, which have allowed me to develop key principles that can help anyone create a life of contribution, success, and joy. In the last video, we started to explore the first chapter of my book, An Intelligent Pursuit of Optimal Being. We touched upon the concepts of inherent purpose, ikigai, purpose in religion and how this drives our actions, and also some of the barriers to happiness. In this video, we will continue to explore these topics, but also expand upon them and take a deep dive into some of the conditions that create a barrier to happiness. Problem 1. Unrealistic expectations of happiness. Happiness is the goal of every person on Earth. If you seek your purpose, ask yourself, what makes me happy? The question is surprisingly difficult to answer. Of course, many things make us happy. But what is that thing that achieves happiness while activating our passion? For creative people, it may be making art or composing music. For someone who loves archaeology, the purpose might be to discover something new or become an expert in one of the most tantalizing dig sites. For teachers who love educating young minds, it is changing the life of someone who needs a mentor like you. There is beauty and fulfillment in all of this. It's essential to be realistic, though. We live in a culture that peddles quick fixes and easy answers, often promising fulfillment in material possessions. Modern life constantly throws at us all manner of products and people who offer swift and painless, quick and easy solutions. They try to sell us things based on what they think will make us happy. The airwaves are jammed with advertisements for cars, pills, exotic vacations, and objects of every sort, all of which promise comfort and fulfillment for a simple cash transaction. Similarly, politicians of all stripes promise happiness to their constituents, often through better economic conditions or more secure jobs. All you have to do is vote for me, they claim, and you will have a happier life. Our human need for simplicity makes us look for materialistic solutions for everything we desire: better looks, better relationships, and attainment of wealth without having to work hard. Our lives are complex enough to get through the day. Who doesn't want to find a little comfort in exchange for writing a check or clicking a tab in the voting booth? Many of us take that even further by focusing on only one or two aspects of our lives instead of our life as a whole. Too often people need help because they devote most of their energy towards a single activity at the expense of others, which can have disastrous consequences even if that activity is inherently good. We succeed in areas we're devoted to, but are deficient in areas we don't focus on. The goals and milestones that measure our success in one field can't always translate into others, leading to confusion and a need to reevaluate our methods. This can even have the opposite effect of what was intended. Unable to address the imbalance in their lives, people spend even more time in those areas where they have thrived. The imbalance grows worse, and our happiness suffers as a result. Humans crave what is fast and easy. This leads to several challenges for those seeking emotional health and balance. The very act of living is far from simple. Instead, it is a matter of making complex decisions that cannot be avoided or shunted into manageable categories. On the other hand, there is genius in simplicity, and finding the truth is less complicated than we make it out to be. Once we discover the simple truth, we can solve many complex situations. It often leads to binary thinking, the habit of reducing any problem or decision to a few simple choices. Pick A or B, thumbs up or thumbs down. Steak or seafood, chocolate or vanilla, take the big promotion or spend more time with the family. There's a comfort to binary thinking and a finality to its all or nothing choices. It's easy, it's cleanly divided. We don't have to ponder any unknown variables or factors and conditions that might change. There is no need to waste further energy once our choice is made. The very dynamic of a binary option can feel supremely enticing, since even if you change your mind, the only alternative is similarly well-known and comforting. Unfortunately, binary thinking can also be very harmful in direct terms and in terms of its impact on the brain. To begin with, binary thinking, yes, no, on, off, good, flawed, often entails minimizing or eliminating important information that may shade or nuance the decision. Situations in life often involve more than just two choices. and the benefits and drawbacks of each can add to or reduce the appeal of any choice. Sometimes solutions must be completed or last for only a brief period before they need to be adjusted or revised. Such considerations are repugnant compared to the simplicity of a binary choice. As a result, it becomes easier to ignore or minimize them, which can have devastating repercussions. For example, a corrupt political candidate may support views that you do, but will damage the underlying structure of the government by misusing public funds and appointing cronies to important positions. Her opponent may adopt policies you oppose on specific issues, but he is a person of integrity and displays no such corruption. How is one to decide? Are the comparative strengths of the problems you support strong enough to tolerate a breach of public trust? Suddenly, a host of questions must be evaluated before making a decision. The decision will need to be periodically re-evaluated as time passes, and the winning candidate will presumably develop a record to run on for re-election. There are many essential questions in matters like this, yet the need for simplicity asks us to cast them away. Instead, we rely on more straightforward notions such as the affiliation of a political party, or the impression of the candidates as someone we personally like or dislike to help us decide. And once we've chosen, we're inclined to stay with our choice regardless of external evidence to the contrary. It's not hard to see how such thinking can damage our long-term happiness. There have been formal studies addressing the impact of binary thinking. Mark B. Baer, writing for Psychology Today, states a tendency to make irrational decisions very quickly and can come to see reality itself as a series of either-or equations. We seek simplicity as a means to happiness, yet it quickly makes us unhappy. Why? One of the central comforts of a binary choice is that we are rewarded with an immediate sense of accomplishment, even closure. The decision is made, and it will prove either right or wrong. A simple decision is one we do not have to expend further mental energy on. This, in turn, creates one of the primary obstacles to our long-term happiness and unreasonable expectations of success. We seek validation of that choice through similarly simple binary means, which only worsens the problem. The results, commonly referred to as confirmation bias, reinforce our behavior, meaning we become further set in that direction and less able to change course, making us less happy. One of modern culture's clearest examples is the workaholic phenomenon. Approximately 10% of the working population in the United States is addicted to their jobs, a condition that goes beyond working long hours to please the employer. Workaholics possess the same type of behavioral addictions as those afflicted with compulsive gambling, obsessive exercise, or addiction to the internet. It can include obsessive thoughts about working when away from work, anxiety related to perceived negative consequences of not working, rises in work-related stress, and more instances of burnout. Workaholics experience tremendous internal pressure to stay committed to their addiction. Rewards can come in the form of raises, promotions, and even the simple perception of being a good employee. To them, the commitment to work is the simple answer to happiness, and expect their efforts will translate to happiness in all aspects of life accordingly. Not surprisingly, the opposite is usually true. Other parts of the workaholic's life suffer as more and more of their time goes into their career. Their social life deteriorates, their marital or romantic partners feel neglected, and their sense of happiness declines. They begin to feel like they're running on a treadmill, and no matter what gains they make in their professional life, it's never enough. Subsequent rewards, promotions, benefits, and so on, begin to experience diminishing returns and no longer hold the joys they once did. Studies indicate that despite high productivity levels at their jobs, workaholics experience increased stress levels and may experience suffering elsewhere. Sometimes it can even result in work-related burnout and catastrophic emotional damage. Our minds and bodies are wholly integrated, and as such, the obsessive worker's behavior takes a toll on their health. Because they work so long, a workaholic's body releases a persistent and, given enough time, unhealthy flow of adrenaline to fuel their compulsive desire to stay devoted to their jobs. In his book, The Hidden Link Between Adrenaline and Stress, psychologist Archibald D. Hart details how too much adrenaline can lead not only to lingering distress, but also cardiovascular issues, chronic fatigue, and depression. In turn, this depression, coupled with a decline in productivity and other stress-induced health complications, can even be fatal. This phenomenon is so common in Japan that there is a particular term for it, karoshi, which almost literally means worked to death. As detailed in a recent article in Business Insider, over 20% of those surveyed in Japan worked at least 80 hours of overtime each month, and in many cases, much more. In the United States, around 16% of respondents reported the same amount of overtime, and half of all respondents said they don't take paid vacations. Karoshi is a troubling indicator of how single-mindedness can run deep and how much damage it can do to a life intended for more healthy and balanced activities. Individuals can also be addicted to other forms of behavioral excesses, such as over-exercising, obsessive cleaning, or attempting to have an excessive amount of sex. The single-mindedness of such behaviors neglects a balanced life in favor of success, defined in one narrow term. In our efforts to find happiness as quickly as possible, we end up further away from our goals than ever. The root causes can often be traced back to unrealistic goal assessments and inadequate indicators for measuring progress toward them. Simple thinking creates unrealistic expectations, whether by dividing our options into binary or at least limited options, or focusing only on one aspect of our lives at the expense of others. We often enable simplicity of thinking by looking for the easiest way to enjoy the rewards of our efforts as quickly as possible. Later in this book, we will discuss ways of addressing such thinking and altering its trajectory. For now, it is enough to observe that humans often behave this way. We should look at our lives clearly and honestly to see if this applies to us too. Problem 2. Biochemical influences and physical symptoms. Pursuing happiness is more than just a question of willpower. Physiological factors are also involved, which naturally lead us to adopt simplistic methods and measures of success for our goals. We do not have a choice in how such factors affect us. Still, by recognizing them and, more importantly, by understanding how they relate to our subsequent behavior, we can channel them in healthier directions. The brain produces various biochemicals to reward certain kinds of behavior. This is hardwired into our DNA. Dopamine, for example, is created upon receiving a reward, while serotonin is triggered to regulate our emotions. When properly understood, these chemicals regulate our thoughts and feelings, significantly improving our motivation and drive. For example, aiming for a goal because you look forward to feeling good is a strong motivator. Runners, for example, often talk about a euphoric high during and after completing a race. Everyone feels a flush of satisfaction and happiness when they have achieved an important goal or project. However, brain chemistry is complex, and biochemical rewards are usually triggered in brief bursts and are not sustainable over the long term. Acting solely in pursuit of such biochemical fixes is tiring and difficult to sustain in the long term. This results in seeking short-term fixes at the expense of long-term goals, which in turn results in diminishing returns from the fix. This is a false flag milestone that can hinder healthy emotional progress towards our goals. Pursuing the sensation inevitably leads to disappointment, burnout, and blunted purpose. Take the example of New Year's resolutions. We promise to improve our lives by exercising more, eating better, quitting bad habits, and pursuing opportunities to nurture our souls. Just by making that promise, our brain releases a burst of endorphins or similar neurotransmitters that increase our satisfaction at making such a self-aware decision. The problem with the tradition is that while the initial burst may feel good, these resolutions are usually made without a clear plan for moving forward. Those lofty ambitions are often abandoned by Valentine's Day. Why? Because we crave the biochemical high of planning instead of doing the hard work to change our habits, which isn't nearly as fun. It takes action, not just words, to make good on our promises. We can't rewire our brains to prevent this because those biochemical rewards are crucial to our overall emotional well-being. Yet they demonstrate how we can fall victim to focusing on the wrong things to achieve success. Identifying those brief bursts of euphoria as success is a mistake that can blind us to a more fruitful path to well-being. Noticing and understanding that pattern is the first step towards changing it for the better. We live in a society that emphasizes hard work and worldly gains as the keys to happiness, but they are not the only keys. The maxim, "work and ye shall prosper," is an either-or equation that results in binary thinking. Binary thinking feeds our desire for an easy solution and can often sabotage our attempts to improve our life. We may focus too much on work or some other aspect of our lives, or whether we look for simple solutions that provide immediate gratification. Work, Especially work that we find fulfilling is important, but requires more than seeking goal after goal. It requires a holistic search for a purpose worth channeling all your resources into. That takes a lot of soul-searching and in-depth reflections on what our reality is, who we want to be, and how we fit into the bigger picture. The result of this process is discovering the true worth of your existence. Make sure it is worthwhile and not a waste. The standard advice for those attempting to achieve a goal is to focus their minds on their objective. This is sound advice as long as you remember that attaining an important goal can be more complex than you think. Making good on our goals requires consistency and consequently continuous focus. Start with noble intentions and a plan to apply them with daily follow-through. Don't be satisfied with just feeling okay and staying stuck in a static state of mind. Commit yourself to stepping out of your comfort zone to make the changes required. The hard work involved with finding your foundation, setting your goals, and trying to make yourself think differently will be uncomfortable. You will consciously and unconsciously wrestle with yourself to make progress. You must be honest with yourself about the ingrained habits holding you back. However, with practice, this focus will become instinct within weeks or months. You will have adapted. The following chapters will focus on skills that build upon your foundation and how to reorganize your thinking to better address the obstacles on your journey. Thank you for joining me on the second part of this journey. I hope you can take this time to reflect back on what we have gone over. To make things easier, here are some of my key takeaways from this part of the chapter. In the next video, we will go over Chapter 2 of my book, where we will look within, which coincidentally is the title of this chapter. We will discuss the power of self-reflection and how our values and intentions can help us succeed, inshallah. We will see each other then. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
أفحسبتم أنما خلقناكم عبثا وأنكم إلينا لا ترجعون فتعالى الله الملك الحق لا